When most people think of the Irish, they imagine pale skin, freckles, fiery red hair, and piercing blue or green eyes. But is this stereotype really true? And where do the Irish actually come from? The story of Irish DNA is far richer and more complex than most people assume. It weaves together ancient Stone Age settlers, mysterious migrations from Spain, Viking invaders, Norman conquerors, and even Germanic and Celtic roots. Today, we'll explore the real science of Irish ancestry, what genetics says about their origins, what makes Irish phenotypes unique, and why Ireland's DNA is still one of the most fascinating. In Europe, let's start at the beginning. For centuries, many believed the Irish were direct descendants of the Celts, migrating from Central Europe around 500 BCE. After all, the Greeks used the word Keltoi to describe northern tribes, and Irish art seemed to share some similarities with Celtic designs. But new DNA research has changed this story. The earliest settlers of Ireland, arriving thousands of years ago, actually traced their closest genetic roots not to Central Europe, but to northern Spain, particularly Galicia, Asturias, Cantabria, and the Basque Country. This Basque connection shows that Ireland's foundation was laid during the Stone Age, when people moved up the Atlantic coast of Europe and into the British Isles. In fact, Irish males have one of the highest rates of a particular Y-DNA haplogroup, R1bm269, in all of Europe, and it matches closely with men in northern Spain. So does this mean the Irish aren't Celts? Not exactly. Between 500 BCE and 400 CE, migrations of Celtic-speaking people, often with Germanic ties, did influence Ireland. This brought cultural changes, new languages, and new genes into the mix. In other words, the Irish identity became Celtic, but genetically, their deepest roots still tie back to Atlantic Europe, not the heart of Central Europe. Fast forward to the early medieval period, and the Irish gene pool gets shaken again. Beginning in the late 700s, Viking raiders, mostly from Norway and Denmark, stormed the Irish coast, founding settlements in Dublin, Cork, and Limerick. But they didn't just raid, they settled, traded, and married into the local population. Genetics confirms this. The Irish carry significant amounts of Viking DNA, often in proportions similar to the English. This added a new layer of diversity, introducing more blonde hair, more blue eyes, and distinct Scandinavian haplotypes. Then came the Normans in the 12th century, descendants of Vikings who had settled in France. They also contributed to Irish DNA, blending with the population and leaving their mark, especially in surnames and aristocratic lineages. So what does this mixing mean for appearance? Irish phenotypes are famous worldwide, but let's break them down. Skin. Most Irish people have light to fair skin, often prone to freckles. This is one of the highest concentrations of light skin in the world. Hair. While red hair is iconic, it actually makes up only about 10% of the population, though that's still the highest percentage globally. Brown hair is most common, followed by black and blonde. Eyes. Ireland and Scotland have the highest percentage of light eyes anywhere. More than 3/4 of the population, about 86%, have blue or green eyes. Builds and features. Irish faces often show softer, rounder features compared to more angular Northern Europeans, though this varies depending on Viking and Norman ancestry. In short, Irish people often have pale skin, light eyes, and either brown, red, or blonde hair, but the diversity is greater than the stereotype suggests. Another fascinating insight comes from surnames. Studies have shown that men with Old Gaelic surnames, like O'Sullivan, O'Brien, or O'Connor, carry some of the strongest links to the original Stone Age settlers. Their Y-DNA lines go back thousands of years, long before English conquest or modern mixing. This means that in some cases, your surname in Ireland can almost predict your DNA lineage. Unlike mainland Europe, Ireland's geography helped preserve its DNA. Because it's an island, waves of newcomers were fewer compared to other places. While the English conquest did bring major cultural change, it didn't erase the deep genetic continuity of the Irish. That's why Ireland still shows such strong links to its Stone Age ancestors, even while also carrying Viking, Norman, and Celtic layers. So what does the average Irish DNA look like today? Strong Atlantic European roots, especially linked to Basque in northern Spain, Celtic and Germanic layers, reflecting migrations in the Iron Age, Viking and Norman influences, adding more Scandinavian and French ancestry. It's this mixture that makes the Irish more genetically diverse than many assume. The myth of the Irish as purely Celtic has faded. Instead, genetics reveals a more complex picture. Stone Age settlers from Spain, Celtic and Germanic migrations, Viking raiders, Norman conquerors, and English influence. And yet, through it all, the Irish remain genetically distinct, shaped by layers of history but still tied deeply to their Atlantic roots. So next time you see someone with pale freckled skin, red or brown hair, and bright green eyes, remember, their DNA carries echoes of Spain's Basque Country, the roar of Viking ships, and the long resilience of Ireland's earliest ancestors. If you found this journey into ancestry and genetics interesting, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden roots of peoples around the world. See you next time.